welcome to another day, another story. What is OSI model? The Open System Interconnection (OSI) model is a framework that describes the function of a network system. The OSI model categorizes the computing function of the different network components, outlining the rules and requirements needed to support the interoperability of the software and hardware that make up the network. Why do we use the OSI model? OSI model layers are particularly helpful when visualizing the flow of data from the sender to the receiver. The descriptions of the various levels as well as their interdependency make it easier to pinpoint network issues. What are the 7 layers of the OSI model? There are 7 abstractions layers that makes up the OSI model. Communication from one person to another goes from layer 7 to layer 1. Each layer performs a specific job before it sends the data on the next layer. Application layer. The application layer is the closest to the end user. It initiates communication between the users and the applications they personally interact with. At this layer, data is translated from the syntax it was converted into something the users can read. Presentation layer. Presentation layer takes care of getting data ready for the application layer. The two devices that are communicating may use different method of encoding their data. Layer 6 therefore turns the income data into something that can be read at the application layer. This includes encrypting and decrypting data. Section layer. The section layer handles opening and closing network communication between two interacting devices. The section refers to the time between the opening and closing of the interaction. The section layer makes sure the section is open for a long enough period of time for all the necessary data to be sent through. The section layer then closes the section to prevent expanding unnecessary resources. Transport layer. The transport layer handles end-to-end communication between the devices interacting with each other. The management of a communication involves taking the data in the section layer and dividing it into pieces referred to as segments. The transport layer on the device receiving the communication handles the assembly of the segments into data that is consumable by the section layer. Network layer. The network layer facilitates the transfer of the data when two networks are communicating with each other. If two communication devices are using the same network, then there are no need for network layer. The network layer divides the segments that come from transport layer. These are referred to as packets. The division of a segment into packets happens on the sender's device and they are assembled on the receiving device. Data link layer. The data link layer is like the network layer except that the data link layer facilitates data transfer between two devices using the same network. In the data link layer, packets are broken into pieces referred as frames. Similar to the network layer, the data link layer handles flow and error control. The transport layer is different in that it only messages the flow of data and error when two networks are communicating with each other. Physical layer. The physical layer involves the physical equipment that transport data like switches and cables. In this layer, the data is converted into strings of ones and zeros. In the physical layer, the device has to agree on a method of distributing the ones and zeros, which enables the digital data to be properly interpreted by each device. How data flow through different OSI model layers. Each of the 7 OSI model layers communicates with layer below and above it. For example, the application layer interacts with software applications, while the presentation layer provides encrypts and data comparison. Likewise, the section layer creates communication between devices. The transport layer breaks data into chunks called segments to send them. Then the receive devices resemble the segment before the network layer breaks them into smaller packets to send to other networks. The data link layer facilitates data transfer between devices on the same network. And finally, the physical layer transforms data in machine language ones and zeros. Thank you for watching my video.